30A, Sections 18 to 25, Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 155 of the Code of the Town of Eastham, Eastham Wetlands Protection Act. This meeting is being broadcast on Public Access Channel 8 and streamed on the town website at www.eastham-ma.org and on YouTube. It will be rebroadcast on Channel 8 and meeting videos will be available on YouTube. Before we begin, a quick reminder. While our meetings are relatively informal, the Commission uses a simplified version of Robert's Rules. The chair runs the meeting, and everyone should speak through the chair after being recognized. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. We allow discussion between commissioners, staff, and applicants, and may extend that to abutters. Are you hearing me okay? Okay.
You do sound a little muted, Karen. I'm not sure if that's on my end or yours.
No, that's mine. My earpods kicked off again. Okay. We allow discussion between commissioners, staff, and applicants. And RDAs. The applicant will present first, followed by discussion with the commission and staff. Once the commission questions have slowed, abutters will have a chance to speak, followed by other members of the public as time allows. The chair may set time limits if needed. Please keep your microphone mute unless it's your turn to speak, and let the chair know if you plan to record the meeting. Most importantly, please be respectful of others so we can keep the meeting productive and focused. I'm now going to take attendance and then we'll start. Janet Benjamin.
Here.
Joanne Cossett.
Here.
Greg Douglas. Greg? I know he's there. I'll come back to him. Mike Rivers.
Here.
Cinnamon Swable. Cinnamon?
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, here.
Chuck Wagner, I do not see him. And Karen Strauss, I am here. So tonight we are joined by two new commissioners. I just want to mention Cinnamon Swable and Mike Rivers. So we are at our full capacity of 7 commissioners for the first time in 2 years. So thought that was worth noting. So I hope you'll welcome our new commissioners throughout the evening. First on our agenda is a public comment period. Does anybody wish to speak to the commission on briefly on any matters not on the agenda? Please raise your hand. Okay, and seeing no one, our first item is a continuation of request for determination of applicability filed by Gail, Bedoukian. Applicant proposes to flush cut 23 invasive Japanese black pine trees and planting beach grass at property located at 18 Horton Way, map 07, parcel 493A, and the applicant has requested a continuance until September 23rd, 2025. So if I could have a motion to that.
Move to continue to September 23rd, 2025.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Joanne?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Joanne, I got you, right? Okay. And I am a yes. Okay. Next, we have a certificate of compliance filed by Christine Doherty, SE 19-1805, for the removal and rebuild a portion of the foundation located under the sun porch, widen the sun porch, extend and widen the deck, and add a stairway off the deck at property located at 160 Crosby Village Road, map 14, parcel 212. And I see the applicants are on the call. We were out there for a site visit this morning and noticed that some of the mitigation was not complete. but I think everything else was satisfactory.
Yes.
So we'll talk about mitigation in a minute. Greg, do you have anything to add about the site visit?
No, just the mitigation issue.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the other parts of the certificate of compliance? Okay. So it seemed like the mitigation was not sufficient. Some of the plantings had been unavailable, and there is a need to fill in. And the thought was to do a partial certificate of compliance and then let the homeowners work on the mitigation and consult with Alex after the meeting. Does that sound about right? I'm going to ask the homeowners if they would like to unmute.
Yeah, actually, we have the property owners is in person in the meeting room with us.
Oh, in the meeting room. Okay. So I'm going to ask for your comment, your thoughts. And if you could first identify yourself for the record, please.
Oh, hi. I'm Christine Doherty at 160 Crosby Village Road. So that is my plan to further talk about plantings. Should we wait till later? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it probably makes more sense for you to talk to Alex about the plantings later and come up with a plan. And we could give you a partial certificate of compliance tonight. If that seems okay with everybody else.
Karen, is there a reason to issue a partial certificate, or does it make sense just to hold until it's done? I suppose I'm happy to do what the property owner prefers, but in terms of paperwork, it might just be reasonable to hold unless there's a reason.
I don't know that there's a particular reason. We often do it this way.
Right. Whatever the process is, would you know sort of details as far as what we need to do as far as, waiting or partial versus wait till the whole thing is done? It would be another site visit and another hearing, I assume?
Correct.
Well-
It would be another site visit and hearing, like either
Either way.
process, either way. Yeah.
Right. And so it would be another hearing anyways, even if it's just this
Mhm.
a partial.
Mhm.
So
Right.
whatever is easier and I suppose doesn't require another round of paperwork or filing. I mean, that may make sense.
Yeah. But mitigation is going to require, you're not in a rush for the certificate of compliance.
Well, not a big, I mean, the rush is just to, in my mind, to have it complete.
Okay.
Certainly, I actually went to the Ponderosa today. I didn't purchase anything because I wanted to run it by you. My idea is certainly if we did plantings soon, the next week, that it would
Mhm.
suffice, satisfy, and then, kind of just get it done.
Well, we still require at least a growing season to make sure they
Okay.
establish. So,
This fall.
Alex, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, if we were to do the plantings this fall, we would most likely revisit this next fall once the plantings have become established,
Mm-hmm.
then close it out then.
So as far as whatever is easiest, will everything be in good standing, all the forms and what I've submitted now? You know what I mean? Last a whole year, basically.
Well, we're not near, as far as I can tell, and Alex, you can confirm this, we're not near the expiration date of the order of conditions.
Okay. I wasn't sure what that was.
So the order was issued in 2021, March of 2021. And so that would have expired March of last year. There's been a 2-year extension on all permits granted by the state. So
Okay.
you've got at least another year on this, if I'm doing my math correctly.
Well, it would have expired March of this. So sorry, I can't do math today. I apologize. So it would have expired last year, so 2024.
Correct.
2020.
And so
Right.
now it would be 2026, right?
So that would be March next year. So
March of next year.
Hmm.
so you would need to apply for you could apply for a certificate of compliance after the order expires, but if there was more work to be done once the order expires, that would require another few steps. So,
I think issuing the partial certificate tonight and then closing it out completely next year may be the best.
Right, that makes sense. I mean, if it's issued, at least it's recognized that the site's been visited and we're in compliance,
Right.
as far as the
Mhm.
renovation and the construction.
Right. And we looked,
Right.
we have, we
Right.
looked at that at the site visit today. So closing out, doing the partial tonight, at least closes all that out.
Right.
And then now we're just focusing on the mitigation.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that makes the most sense. And then if we did the plantings this fall, which, whatever, in this month, basically,
mhm.
it would still be a whole year. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
right, but they'd be in and they'd be working, and then you could come back in the fall, the certificate. Yeah. Does that seem to make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay. Okay. So if we could have a motion for a partial certificate of compliance for SE 19-1805 to cover the removal and rebuild the portion of the foundation located under the sun porch, widen the sun porch, extend and widen the deck, and add a stairway off the deck, and not include the mitigation in this partial certificate.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second,
Okay. Joanne,
yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes, can I vote on this?
yes,
Yes.
and Mike,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, next we have a continuation of certificate of compliance filed by Paula and Charles Kochi, SE 19-1905 for the demolition of an existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling, septic system modification, and town water line installation at property located at 735C Campground Road, map 07, parcel 324C, and the applicant has requested a continuation until September 23rd, 2025. So if I could have a motion to that
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Janet,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
and I am a yes. And we have a continuation of certificate of compliance filed by Nathan Nickerson, SE 19-1795 for the removal of 40 locust trees, 3 black cherry trees, piles of brush and debris, invasive plants and vines, and regrading of the slope between the new house and pond at property located at 20 and 30 Adams Way map 11, parcel 187 and 188. And they have requested a continuation to September 23rd, 2025. If I could have a motion.
Move to
For that.
continue to September 23rd, 2025.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Greg,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
and I am a yes. Okay. And now we have an administrative review filed by Elizabeth Bush. Applicant proposes to remove 2 dead trees and prune 1 tree at property located at 570 Samoset Road, map 14, parcel 091. And I see the Bushes are on the call. Welcome. We were out at your site today for a site visit and looked at a whole bunch of trees, and I think we do have some questions for you.
Yep.
So looking at the willow tree.
Yep.
Okay. You're proposing to remove the portion close to the houses.
Yes.
So is that the entire limb going back
Yes.
to the okay.
Yes, plus some cutting of the crown so that since it's a weak tree to begin with, hopefully it will survive.
Okay, but we noticed when we were out there that the larger portion of the trunk is hollowed out.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The arborist said he would try to cut some of the crown so that he thought the tree would survive with that hole. So
Oh.
that was his suggestion, is to just trim it, take that branch over the house, and then it will, yeah, that's the plan.
Hopefully it'll survive. If it doesn't survive, it'll end up coming down, but
Yeah, we were concerned about the survivability of that section of the tree.
Yeah. So that would be something we would have to ask the arborist, I guess.
Mhm. Okay, and wondering if maybe you wanted to consult with the arborist before we made a decision on it.
You can do that.
Okay. And then, yeah, looking at the oak tree over on the side of the house.
over the
You
garage,
wanted,
yes.
oh, yeah, you wanted to cut some clearance above that. And
Right.
it was unclear exactly what you wanted to cut. There's a branch coming off that has a V.
Yes.
Did you want
that's
it?
that whole
Did you want to
branch.
cut that whole branch back to where the V is?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think that's right. Yep.
Okay, because that seemed to make the most sense to us,
Yep.
even though it's quite a lot of canopy that you're cutting back
Right,
in,
Right,
in that.
right.
Okay. Um, let me open it up to the rest of the commission that was out on the site visit. Greg?
You covered most of them. I was also concerned about the tree with the big hole. in it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
How that's going to survive.
One arborist said, no, it's got to come down. And this guy said, no, we can save it. Let's try to save it. So I'm not sure.
Like chemotherapy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
my
you do know maybe that when you cut oaks like of that species down, not oaks, when you cut
Willow.
willows of that species, they do tend to resprout and regrow and can get pretty
Yeah.
large again. Because
Yeah.
I've had that experience over here when limbs have been hollowed out because owls moved in or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cinnamon, anything from you?
No.
Okay. Alex?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Karen,
I think I missed the snag question.
the snag, and then I think we wanted to touch on the ailanthus as well.
Right. Do you want to go through that?
Sure. I mean, being a state listed species, I don't have any concerns about the ailanthus being removed. As far as the the dead spruces, I was wondering if the property owners were open to, cutting one of those dead spruces to 12 to 15 feet to allow it to remain as roosting habitat for birds.
Oh,
Yeah, the one of them is already, it tends to shed limbs every year anyway. So I'm concerned. I'm not sure how long it would last if we were to cut it at that height anyway. Would it just end up coming down anyway?
And we've conditioned this before, and typically it's just the trunk. So we would limb it
Okay.
completely, and then keep a trunk that's 12 to 15 feet.
Oh,
Okay.
and that's a bird habitat? I mean,
It
that
could
would,
be, yeah, it could attract,
Mhm.
especially woodpeckers.
Oh.
Pretty much any roosting species of a bird.
Okay.
Would certainly take advantage of that opportunity.
okay,
Okay, yeah, we
that's a
can do
good
that.
possibility, yeah. Yep.
So it looks like we just were looking for information on the willow tree.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So, yeah. If we just go ahead and have it trimmed, and I mean, it subsequently dies and or falls, hopefully the reason we're trimming it is so it doesn't fall in the house or anything. So
Right.
then we would just clean it up.
Okay.
So can we just, yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of the
so-
thought there.
I think we could probably go ahead and permit the other work, but we were just wondering about the tree as a whole, given that if you're cutting this limb off and then the other one's dead and going, just wondering about the stability of it, even though it will likely resprout.
Right.
So
Karen, can we leave this kind of an open question to manage with Alex if it sounds like the owners want to try to trim the willow, but we could include in the conditions that if the willow doesn't survive, that they, if an arborist says that it's not looking good, that they're allowed to take it. I don't know if how wooded the lot is, if additional mitigation would be needed or not, but I think we could build that in so that they have a little little license to make that decision, right?
Right. I was getting to that too in my head. I'm a little slow today, but yeah. So we could condition this to give you permission to take that down, and you could look into the we could give you permission for
Okay.
what you've asked for with our conditions, and then if the arborist wanted to take down that other limb, I think we would be in agreement to allow that in consultation with Alex. Does that sound
Great.
right with
That sounds
everybody?
great.
Yeah. That
Oh,
works.
Janet, any comments from you? No? Okay. So it looks like we are going to permit removal of all the trees, leave one spruce removal or pruning as you've requested, with one spruce to remain as a 12 to 15 foot snag, and the oak to be pruned back to the V at the trunk as this at the other branch as discussed, and the willow to allow removal of either one or two I guess we'll call them trunks, basically, because it's a 3-trunk tree, depending upon the arborist report in consultation with Alex. And with our usual special conditions for tree pruning and removal. And I think that's it. That requires notice to the Conservation Commission before any work gets started. Janet?
I'm sorry, I should have commented earlier. I really appreciate the effort you and Alex and Greg went to work on helping and to save some of the trees and to work out an equitable situation with the homeowners. So thank you. There's a lot of input that you gave.
Okay, so if we could have a motion to approve the work as proposed with one spruce to be left as a 12 to 15-foot snag. The oak to be trimmed back to that branch back to the V, and the willow to be pruned or and the crown worked on with the option to do one or both of the limbs that we've
The main
talked
limb.
about.
Okay.
One or both of those main limbs out of the three that are there.
So moved.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Does it matter which of the spruces? I mean, is there a preference? Is there something that would be one that would be better than the others to keep, or doesn't matter?
I think I don't think it really makes a
Okay.
particular difference there, whichever one seems to work best when you're doing the work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so motion with the special conditions for tree pruning, and is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Okay. Joanne,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
and I am a yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and next is the administrative review filed by Peter Jensen. Applicant proposes to rehab the sloping grass hillside at property located at 655 Herringbrook Road, map 14, parcel 015. And we were out there for a site visit today as well. Is Peter here?
Yes, Peter is with us in the meeting room.
Okay. I was wondering if he might like to just run through it with us, because he had such an interesting explanation this morning that I think it would be really good to kind of hear a little bit about that in the meeting.
Yeah, just. There you go. Okay, yeah. Had to find the button, excuse me. Hi, yeah, for the record, Peter Jensen, Terra Firma Perma Gardens. I'm a ecological restoration landscaper based in Orleans, 155 Monument Road. Any more about my background?
If you'd like.
Well, I'm a regenerative agroecologist, and that's a broad field of study that blends agriculture and environmental sciences to rehabilitate broken or soon-to-be broken landscapes. My career spans the globe. I'm from Orleans. I grew up in Orleans in the 70s, but then have spent 30 to 40 years either in West Virginia as a county agriculture extension agent, and then with the Peace Corps as a global trainer on agroecology for nutrition security gardening. The COVID pandemic and the Ethiopian Civil War brought me home in 2019. The Ethiopian Civil War brought me home in 2020. The COVID pandemic kept me home. So I've refashioned what I used to do in South Sudan and Ethiopia, et cetera, across the global South to here in anywhere from P-Town to Truro. Sorry, Falmouth to Truro with the base in Orleans. And basically the idea is aquifer protection through ecosystem strengthening and resilience is the overall theme of the work I do. So it's more to add soil organic matter deeper into the soil to repair sandy sloping lands, not just putting compost or loam on the surface, but to reestablish grass. You need to have a better rooting zone than just friable broken sand as you see all over the Cape, but particularly in Eastham and to the outer Cape. But we would put in, as I demonstrated this morning for those who were on the site visit, it involves the roguing, if you will, of existing weeds over the grassy bank, which is also where the septic system field, leach field, et cetera, is broadly, as well as all the way up to the road, Herringbrook Road. It's supposed to be just weeds and light sand and quite a ruin, actually. And this involves roguing out the weeds with a clam rake to get the root mass, and then replacing that rooting zone with a blend of compost, screened loam, and a light load of bark mulch as a blend. And that adds tilth, adds soil nutrients, and a rooting media for the grass to be established. And then on top of that goes another, once that rooting zone to 6 inches depth is established, and then the grass seed is applied. I'm sorry, first we add then another layer of the pure blend of soils. On top of that, grass seed, native grasses, which would be hard fescue, sheep fescue, chewing fescue, and some perennial rye grasses, a conservation blend sold by Agway that is native, low growing, drought tolerant, very minimal requirements, low mowing need on this hillside. Then over the top goes the jute erosion cloth, wide mesh, biodegradable, that seals the soil and seed in place. That's watered in by hand. Then a light layer of the same soil blend is put over the top of the jute, just basically a 1/4 inch, just to cover the cells of the jute, the twine, woven twine, if you will. Commonly used material, the jute erosion cloth. And then it's just watered every other 3rd day, because the value of the jute erosion cloth is that it holds moisture. Not only does it hold the soil and seed in place during a rain event, during a watering motion with your hand watering, it'll absorb that moisture and keep it around the seed and soil for a really high successful rate of germination. And so it would just create what's known as a grass waterway. It looks like a lawn, but it's more like accepting the fact that we get winter runoff. We don't get winter snow anymore, seemingly because of the global rise of temperatures. So where we used to enjoy a 8-inch snow, we now get a 1-inch rain in February. It's just the basic fact. 4 degrees of warming since the 70s when I was a kid. So that means that a 1-inch February rain would be erosive versus nourishing. We used to get snow, right? So it's slowly melting. This, by having a deeper soil profile and grass, it will also hold the water more effectively than would just a thin blanket, a thin layer of the soils with seed, but a deeper soil organic matter content to 6 to 8 inches depth prior to seeding. This is a little more of a surgical approach versus just a top dressing blanket. That's the way we have done it around the world, and I look forward to doing it again here in Eastham. So that's kind of the idea. That would be all around the property, as well as down below the driveway, as we saw, which is, I know, very close to the marsh, but that's where the demonstration was, up on the hill. But it would also, I would advocate doing it below the driveway, and a deeper soil profile there would also catch effluent from the driveway, just the little drippings from a car through the gravel. It would keep it in that soil, and the carbon molecule, by definition, grabs the nitrogen molecule, carbon-nitrogen bonding. So by adding more carbon into the soil, not just on the soil, that allows for nitrates and other nutrients to be captured. Also, by adding a little bit more of organic matter, you get fungal growth in the soil, and that allows the filtration and purification of any toxins through mycoremediation. So it's all that is just to say, by just adding compost and loam deeper in the soil, not just on the surface, we get the chance to capture not only the water, but the nutrients and the pollutants that might be going into the marsh. So that's a lot that I guess rattle through, but it's something that is done with a clam rake and a bamboo rake and jute erosion cloth that will biodegrade. By the time you go back out there in May, you would never see any evidence of the jute material. Okay, I'll stop it there and open it. And any other questions?
Okay, you did a demo for us when we were out on the site this morning, which I think we all appreciated. I do have a couple of questions. So we did look at the resource areas while we were out there this morning, and I just want to confirm that the work proposed, the work you thought might be outside of the resource area is indeed within the 100-foot buffer zone to the the flood zone.
Yes, as you described, that line I had was the 100 foot, but that, as you said, that was a 100 foot to the salt marsh. So the entire property, as you described to me, all the way up to Herringbrook Road is within jurisdiction, correct?
Right.
So and the work proposed.
Almost to the edge of Herringbrook, but pretty much, yeah.
Right. And that's really where the work goes. It's a sandy, barren, distressed, exposed soil area that needs a cover, needs a blanket of protection. So yes, it would basically encumbrance the entire the entire property. I recognize that. Yes.
Okay. So, and this is not going to change the slope or the grade there. It's just going to swap out the soil and plant native grasses. Basically.
That's correct. There will be no grade change. It will still maintain the same degree of slope. By removing the root mass of the nutsedge and a couple of mugworts and other problematic weeds, we'll get into the deeper layer of subsoil. Not replacing any soil. We're using existing soil and adding to it. Root mass of weeds comes out, and in goes better compost, and then goes the root mass of the grasses that will dominate the area. So there will be no grade change.
Right, and you during your demo you showed that you'd be replacing the reusing the native grasses that you're disturbing, in addition to the seeding. That's
correct. And by the virtue of the clam rake and only hand tools, we can be selective in terms of removal of working around existing grass that's there. That we don't want to get rid of that because that adds real value, of course. But getting rid of, therefore, the root tendrils of nutsedge, which can be particularly problematic. We go down deep below that to really remove by hand, so as to avoid any herbicidal treatments.
And I guess my last question is, how long do you think this is going to take? So are you planning on working on each area in the project separately, finishing it before moving on to the next, in order to make sure the area is stabilized and not left open? Or are you going to dig everything up and then do the planting?
Oh, no, yeah, right. Very good question. I don't just dig it all up and leave it exposed. I do it piece by piece so that it never, with the vagaries of weather, all of a sudden we get a 1-inch rain event coming. Every time I leave a site, it's ready for the rain event. Because that's in my teachings and trainings, which I continue to do, I ask the question, what is the possibility of rain tonight? And it's 100%. Like the probability is 5% based on forecasting, but the possibility to become under the showerhead of a storm event here on Cape Cod is 100%. So every time I leave the site, it is secure either with a temporary drape of the jute fabric, if we're not ready for the full application, or a straw wattle, which I have on hand to, especially down by the salt marsh area. I would have a 25-foot straw wattle ready right there, always in place during the work. I didn't mention that at the site visit. I meant to say that there will be a pegged-in straw wattle protecting any flow into the salt marsh at that lowest point below the driveway.
Okay, sounds good to me. Let me see. Any questions? Greg, you were at the site visit. Anything from you?
Yeah, sure. I had two questions. One, on one of the steps of your process, you take the soil, the topsoil, and you put it on top of your organic layer soil, and then you cover that again with a little more of the organic layer. Are you concerned at all with getting weed seeds from the original topsoil? Has that been a problem in the past?
Well, I mean, there is always that challenge. I mean, the topsoil has the weed seed bank is probably in the billions, but to get ahead of that, the principle that I usually employ is bad seeds out or bad plants out, good roots in. Trying to get a better stand of grass established quickly ahead of the weeds. But should there be any weeds that come up, of course, I'm out there with my fingers pulling nutsedge, which I anticipate having to do because nutsedge is nutsedge. As any farmer will tell you, it's a persistent weed plant to deal with. But I'm always after it. No herbicides are used. It's all by hand. Everything's by hand. No
Great.
machinery, no collateral damage. That's my niche, if you will. Plenty of operators out there with machines. Not a whole lot of ecosystem restoration landscapers like myself do it only by hand, and that's because I did that all over Africa, Asia, and Latin America by hand, and so I just continue the methods I learned there.
Thank you. And the second question was you're going to have to limb a couple of low level trees. I just wondered maybe it'd be a good idea to coordinate with Alex when you do that. There was this number of trees that needed to be cleaned up a little bit.
Right, and did you notice the orange tape I put on the limbs when you were out there? I kind of marked them. They basically were cedar trees that are impeding the use of the driveway principally. The driveway is now only, it's a narrow, small driveway space, and only one car can fit there because of the overhang about 3 or 4 feet into the driveway of those cedars, just the low-lying limbs. And they would be flush cut with a reciprocating pruning saw. So we get a nice, clean, quick cut, not leaving any snags sticking out there, which will just become, quote unquote, the straw of death if you leave a limb out beyond the root, the stem collar. Not cutting the collar, but cutting just flush to it allows healing of the tree. It's also a more aesthetically pleasing, removes injury from walking by and getting an arm or a head snagged by a little limb. So there'll be clean flush cuts of most predominantly cedar, a few black cherry that were just scraggly and kind of in the way, but no tree is removed. Only the lower limbs for airflow and for improvement of passage for vehicles and some humans as well. But I'll happily coordinate with Alex in terms of more specifics, if that's asked for before I do any more further cutting. I'll check with him. I'll check in with Alex.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Cinnamon, anything from you?
No, I thought the presentation was pretty convincing and seemed like a great idea.
Okay. And then Joanne?
I just have one question. I think it sounds like you've answered by Greg's question about doing this in stages so that the project takes hold piece by piece. I'm curious, based on your experience throughout the rest of the Outer Cape, is there, what is the potential failure rate on projects like this? I'm just curious if this slope won't try to at least attempt to return to this original state. It does sound like you improved the soil, so hopefully that doesn't happen. But is there a failure rate on projects like this, and what does that look like? Thanks.
Well, not to come across as overly arrogant, but no, there's very low failure rate because of the multiple layers of redundancy. Maybe I'm not sure if I got the right word, but soil health allows for quicker germination. During September, it's optimal timing, warm soil, cool nights, possibility of rain. And we're still in a level 2 drought, which we will be till March. By definition, we're in the dry season of a drought year. A summer storm does not break the drought; it only breaks the land. And that's why I insist on always using this jute fabric versus the blanket, the straw blankets, which I see a lot of landscapers use. Not to say that that's not a good practice, but I do prefer using the jute because that holds water and I can see it germinate. I can, without having to disturb the straw blanket others use. This jute, the cell, you can see the seed coming up, and you can therefore, if I don't see it within 10 days, I know I need to do a reseeding or be a little more aggressive with the hand watering. But that's how we overcome that. I'm on site almost every other day with a project like this, especially in a fragile ecosystem such as this.
Mike, any questions?
Yes, I did. Thanks very much for your presentation. It was very complete, but I would like some more information. Do you have any primary sources to substantiate some of the things that you discussed? A textbook?
Wow. That's a good question. Sure.
I'm a physician.
Oh, are you?
I'd like some sort of material that I could read, learn more about.
Okay.
Especially if there's metrics based. You talked about carbon capture. There's ways of measuring carbon capture.
Sure.
It'd be nice if that's true, but I'd like to see numbers if they were possible.
Okay. Would you want that right away? I mean, restoration agriculture, John Jevons, biointensive gardening, those are more publication based things, but
That's okay. Publications, something in
more
writing
more like
that we could look at. would be great.
textbooks. Okay.
Textbook, or chapter in a textbook, something that talks
Yeah.
more about this.
More about like what.
I know nothing about it. I'd like to learn more about
Okay,
it.
like mycoremediation, that term I tossed out there, that was myco is fungal remediation. Obviously, you know what that is, but it's particularly white rot fungus, which is predominant on our native hardwoods and mulches that are ground up, and so that white rot fungus is particularly useful in garnering the free floating of any petrochemicals. So it's very
Okay.
useful in road runoff mitigation. This is a driveway, not as severe. But really in terms of phosphorus uptake, we want fungal matter, the mycelial network. The roots, quote unquote, of fungus are known to extend the value of the root mass of even grasses and trees and shrubs, et cetera, to pick up free floating phosphorus. And phosphate, as we know, is a real problematic nutrient.
Yep.
Not so much in the salt marshes, but in the freshwater ecosystems, but it's a problem anywhere. It's a problem because we want to capture that phosphate it's a useful fertilizer. We don't want to lose it. And any exposed subsoil on Cape Cod is by definition high in phosphate because we are a glacial moraine high in phosphate. So if you see exposed subsoil on a Cape Cod hillside and it's flowing into a body of water, that is phosphate going into the water. That's algal bloom. So those things are known.
Understood. Show me where it's known. Show me
Okay.
a chapter in a book. Show me a document that shows that this particular process
Okay.
does certain things. I'd like to learn more about it.
Sure. I can get that to you.
Thank you.
That's a very good technical question. Appreciate it.
Okay, I want to ask Mike a question. Do you need to have this technical information before we make a determination?
I do.
Okay, Janet, any questions?
I was going to say that I haven't heard of this method before. It sounds intriguing and impressive. And I'm sorry I missed the demonstration. And I would not need to have referenced material before I voted.
I should ask, does anybody else need the reference material before we make a motion?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yes, you are.
I'm concerned about holding this up because of the timeline in September and that it's the most ideal time to grow grass or to get it germinated. That would be my concern in holding this up. So I was looking at what he was thinking his timeline was going to be, or what he wished it was going to be.
Is that a question for me? My timeline?
Yes. Yeah, I can't. Yes.
Yeah, Peter.
Not Mike.
Right. Yeah.
Mr. Jensen.
My hope was to get it started almost tomorrow, or even Friday, because of weather window and timing. I'll certainly provide the reference and material, but I mean, I can find that, but I don't have it at hand.
Sure.
We are facing kind of a window because after September, you kind of lose that opportunity for a good 6 weeks of real strong establishment phase. And that's kind of like mid-September, which is like now.
Okay. Who was that? Who's raising their hand that says Earle Mountain Room?
That'd be me, Alex.
Okay, go ahead, Alex.
Perhaps Peter could provide the commission some literature that or you could email me some literature that I could pass on to the commission, so they could, educate themselves further on your methods and
Yeah.
and whatnot.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do that, actually. That's really why I'm also here in person because of this. I thank you for that question because while these are known in the broader scientific discipline, I want it to be known within the lay community as well. It's something I can spout off not chapter and verse, but I can spout it off like I am reciting chapter and verse. I've been a 40-year educator. So I agree. That's the point of being here, is to educate, and that's what I'm always doing generally in my professional life, is education. And now I'm practically doing it. So thank you for that question, by the way.
And thank you. I think we all appreciate the opportunity to learn. I know something about what you've been proposing, so I definitely would be interested in reading any materials you could provide, but I don't need that in order to permit tonight. And it seems like most of the rest of the commission might be in agreement with that. So if we could have a motion to approve this, noting that you will be adding a straw bale for erosion control and stabilizing the work before you leave the site every night, as well as that the work is completely within the 100, all the work proposed is completely within the 100-foot buffer zone and within jurisdiction. Conditioned with 24-hour notice to the Conservation Department. And I think you've already covered the soil stabilization and other things. So if we could have a motion to that.
So moved.
Unless, did Alex, okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Joanne,
Yes.
Cinnamon, was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Mike,
No.
Greg,
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Okay, and I am a yes, so this carries. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your time today.
You bet.
Okay, and next up we have continuation of notice of intent filed by Michael Nargi and Carrie Picard. Applicant proposes to demolish the existing dwelling and guest house, construct a new residence, install a plunge pool, construct beach access stairs, a snowdrift fence, propose mitigation and septic system upgrade, a property located at 435 Shirtlift Road, map 07, parcel 142A. And for this, I'm just going to note that our new commissioners, Cinnamon and Mike, are not eligible to be part of the quorum, though they are invited to ask questions during the hearing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the applicants.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair and commissioners. Sean Riley with Ty and Bond. Along with me is the project attorney, Ben Zender. We have Ian Peach, the ecological designer with Wilkinson Ecological. And we have Robin Kendra from McPhee Associates, the architects. The last time we met, and this is in no specific order, there are a number of items that we were asked to consider, to provide, starting with considering giving up more of the lower driveway and providing a greater buffer to the dune. We were asked to provide greater separation from the coastal bank for the structures that were adjacent to the coastal bank. To consider changing from a patio to a deck for the surfaces, the exterior surfaces, to allow absorption of runoff. To provide a cross-section to the coastal bank to better understand the grading that's happening behind the coastal bank when that retaining wall is removed. And to provide greater clarity for the different alternatives for the team that we went through in consideration of the wetland interests. We provided the narrative before the last meeting. I just kind of like to walk through that narrative with the different scenarios, just so we can answer and dispel any of the questions that that may still be outstanding on the alternatives that we looked at. And I can tell you that working with the homeowner, McPhee and Wilkinson, there was an extensive look at all the different alternatives for redeveloping the site. So for the new members, welcome aboard. Give you a quick overview of the resource areas that are on and around this property. We have land under ocean, we've got coastal beach, and then we move into a coastal bank, which is this grid pattern. And behind the coastal bank, coming in from the parking lot, is a coastal dune. So this is the highlight. Did everybody see my screen? Highlight of the coastal dune is in this area. We've got 2 houses that are on the property. I'm going to refer to the northern one, or the one further up on the page, as the garage and guest cottage. Adjacent to the guest cottage is a bocce court. There's a series of retaining walls, one of which is immediately adjacent to the dune, which is holding the dune back. Then we have a gravel parking area and entrance off of Shirtlift Road for the cottage. If you drive by the property, it actually looks like 2 different properties or 2 different residences, but it's one resident, one homeowner on with 2 buildings on one property. And further up the road, there is the main dwelling with an existing deck and flagstone patio between the house and the coastal bank. There's an existing landscape wall that is depressed from the coastal bank, so it's actually retaining the coastal bank from the backside of the coastal bank along this area here. And then we have 2 entrances that come into the property on a gravel drive that service that main dwelling. The existing septic system is down within also the flood zone. The AE flood zone comes in through the parking lot to the north and enters in and back around Shirtlift Road. So everything down here within the lower area around elevation 11 is within the flood zone. The cottage, the bocce court, these walls, the gravel drive, the septic system. So it's important to realize also that the property setback, the property line setbacks here in purple are shown. There isn't a whole lot of real estate outside of the 50-foot buffer that is that meets the setback to relocate the structures. So the first option that we looked at, and the alternative that we looked at, was to renovate the existing cottage and to add a second story to the main dwelling. So in looking at that, we would be required on the lower level to elevate all the utilities, make the structure flood compliant with flood vents. We wouldn't necessarily need to do anything with the septic system, but we would propose, and with that, we'd only be able to relocate a portion of the septic system. As we have now proposed, we've got the soil absorption system located up in the furthest point from the resource areas, but we'd still be required to have some sort of a pump lift station to lift the sewage up to the septic tank in the higher area. And that wouldn't be beneficial to leave that behind. I won't dwell on this one too much, as I think we're all in agreement that leaving a structure in a flood zone when there's the ability to pull it out of the flood zone, and also the structure is within the dune. There's a deck within a corner of the dune. So any opportunity that we could take to relocate that structure further away from the resource area would be beneficial, and entirely out of the flood zone would be beneficial to take advantage of. The renovating the main house to put a second story level would require significant modification to the structural members of the first floor. They weren't designed to carry a second floor. The foundation wasn't designed to carry a second floor. So it doesn't make a lot of economic sense to try to build on top of that structure. And I think for a project like this, you've got to have the 2 components. It's got to make economic sense for the homeowner, and it's got to make environmental sense for the commission to approve a project like this with whatever alternative we have. So looking at the second alternative, we'd be looking to relocate the existing structure that is currently within the flood zone to an area that is as far away as possible from the resource area outside of the flood zone, which is this dashed line here, to an area that you'd be able to not only get as far away from the resource area as possible, but to have the ability to have a turning movement to get into the garage and get into that structure. So the topography drops off significantly from where the structure is placed to the street, elevation 16 to elevation 24, about 8 feet. It drops from this. So really the existing driveway, if we were to move this up here, becomes a moot point. You really can't use that driveway, which is good because we can consolidate to a single driveway rather than have 2 entrances within the buffer zone. So, but it does make sense from a design point to have the garage in this location for access and egress into the garage, backing out and making your turning movements, which the zoning board requires on the property and not backing out onto the street. Again, renovating the existing structure and reconstructing the second structure doesn't make economic sense as far as rehabbing the existing structure. It also would leave the existing amenities in place in close proximity to the coastal bank. We would infill the vacated cottage space with mitigation. Really, that would probably be the mitigation requirement, would be to vacate that and to mitigate any disturbance that we have around the new structure. That would still leave a lot of the existing gravel driveway, the walls, the bocce court in that lower area. So that really leads to the scenario that we're at now, which is a complete reconstruction. And just based on where we went with the design options, we end up with something very similar to what I just discussed, with moving the garage to the area that we've relocated it to, and essentially just reconstructing the house. You can see the garage is much shorter than the previous garage. We have a consolidated turnaround area. We've got a single entrance leading into the heart of the property. So that's how we evolved to the scenario that we're at now. To answer the 4 questions that we had leading up to this, with giving up more of the driveway, was discussed with the homeowner. They are willing to give up more of the driveway within this area. You can see that we've given up a significant portion of the driveway to consolidate that, and that would become essentially mitigation plantings that would essentially allow the dune to migrate further landward. For the commissioners that haven't seen this before, essentially what we're doing is removing all of the site amenities within this lower flood zone area, except a portion of the existing gravel driveway. We are taking out the retaining walls that are holding back the dune, and we're basically regrading the entire area with soils that are commensurate with the dunal material, the parent material of the dune. And then within the restoration plan, there's a diverse number of plantings that Ian has spoken to in the past and could speak to more, but essentially trying to return the topography to its natural form and its natural grade, and also creating a much more diversified buffer and habitat around the dwelling. As I said, we've provided more return of that gravel parking area down below. We've also modified our design to eliminate the patios that are adjacent to the structure on the water side, and converted those and changed those to a deck. So those are now pervious with a crushed stone below the deck to allow percolation of stormwater runoff. We've also added a greater buffer in between the deck and the coastal bank. Madam Chair, there was a discussion about trying to increase the separation from any of the structures. Right now, the existing retaining wall at the closest point is 5 feet. We've eliminated a lot of the external space as far as the structures, the patio and deck within this area. And we're now back to 14 feet on the deck to the closest point at the top of coastal bank, and from the 5 feet. We've provided a cross section to really give you an understanding of what we're looking at here behind the coastal bank. So we just extended that cross section through the stair that's proposed. You can see I've highlighted here in yellow the basically the existing perimeter timber retaining wall that's holding back approximately 18 inches, 20 inches of the top of the coastal bank between the green line and the yellow line. And then we have our proposed deck pulling back to this yellow point. And then we've got the house in the dark brown where it's been pulled back to from where the existing lighter brown is now today. In that cross section, if we're to look at it, you can see the existing deck projects out from the house to that retaining wall, which is essentially retaining grade within this area. We'd be elevating the first floor of the main house, elevating the deck, and then basically infilling behind that, taking out that retaining wall and infilling behind it to return it to its pre-construction state before the house was built. I can't imagine that this coastal bank rolled up and rolled down that steep where that wall was installed to put the deck. So we'd infill that area, the area between the deck and the top of coastal bank would all be restored with native plantings. And you can see that where the house is pulled back further from the coastal bank as well. So with that, Jeremy has provided, I'm sorry, Ian and Jeremy from Wilkinson has provided the restoration plan. If there are any questions about that, I think he's added more plantings and more diversity with the further removal of structures. With that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate that you looked at a number of the things we had asked you to look at. Just to go through a couple of things that we had asked that you didn't cover. We had asked you to look at his 10-foot work zone around the proposed pool for the pool regulations.
Yes, and I'll let Attorney Zender address that, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so your pool regulations, they differentiate between pools within the 50 and pools outside of the 50. As you all know, as you identified in the first hearing, there's no ability to locate a pool within the 50 foot. Outside of the 50, the standard is different. The standard is that there's no mitigation required for undisturbed areas. I'm sorry, previously disturbed areas. Where the pool is being located, and significantly, all of this pool is located in that previously disturbed area on the west side of the existing house. Your section 5.03 says that 5.02 says that pool construction shall have a maximum 10-foot wide work zone around the pool. So that has to do with when you're constructing the pool. You can't have a work zone that exceeds 10 foot outside the pool. With no into the 0 to 50. But this project already has a work zone in that area. When you look at the plan, you can see where the existing house is located, and you can see where the work zone is around the house to do the construction. So they're not creating a work zone that wouldn't already exist before. So I think that bylaw doesn't really apply in this particular situation. So we're hopeful that the board is comfortable with the location of the pool, and that work zone is already in place, and it will be regulated by the board and regulated by the contractor. So.
Okay, and thank you. We had asked you to look at our definition of reconstruction because you kept talking. You talked about the house being a replacement for something that existed, and talked about it being that we should allow you to put it in basically the same location and so on and so forth. So we had asked you to look at that.
Through the chair, I didn't have a note on that, but I'm going to look at that quickly while the hearing goes on, if the chair doesn't mind. Look, again, regardless of whether it's reconstruction or not reconstruction, we're locating this house as far landward as we can, given the site constraints that we have. So, and as we've talked about before, you asked the applicant to move this house further away from the coastal bank, which they did. And, and given the topography of the lot and the zoning setbacks that we have, they've moved this as far landward as they can. So I think even if you enforce your construction rule literally, they can't do anything more to move this house further back. So I'll look at the definition during the course of the hearing, and I'll jump back in later with the chair's permission.
Okay, yes, certainly. We were out at the site today again for a look, and we appreciate that you've replaced the pervious paving with more pervious surfaces. So we do appreciate that you looked at that. The house is still too close to the coastal bank when you consider the topography of the site, and when you consider that the revetment, that when you consider sea level rise, when you consider that revetments don't last forever, we want to see a house that is not within, or structures that are not within 5 feet of the coastal bank, not within 14 feet of the coastal bank, and that there has to be a way to pull it back even further, because I am not comfortable with permitting something so close to the coastal bank, given current and reasonably anticipated future conditions at this site. It's too close to the resource area for me. It also doesn't have enough of plantings between the house and the coastal bank, certainly, and between the house and the house itself. We're not talking about the lower area, between the house structure and the dune area. So I would want to see more there, as well as if we're going to permit this, a no disturb zone between the area in the areas closest to the resource area. But the house is still too close for me. It's a very slopey site from the house down, so I am a little concerned about the effect of the house location on the resource areas down slope from it. And we do have a regulation on that as well. If you look at our slope modifier regulation, I can pull you out a reference to that. Sorry, it took me to see. It's in section 5A of the regulations. Yeah, and that's kind of where I am for now. I might come back later. I'm going to open it up to the rest of the commission.
Madam Chair, if I could,
yes,
Madam Chair, if you don't mind if I just jump in on the reconstruction. I pulled the definition just to take a quick look at it while we talk. And your definition is clear. It says that if you're improving more than 50%, it's reconstruction that has to comply with your bylaw. This project is complying with your bylaw in the sense that we're applying for an order of conditions under your wetlands regulations under the State Wetlands Protection Act. So it does comply with that. So it does. And to address your question of moving the house back, when you look at this site, and Mr. Riley can help me with this maybe, but when I look at the cross sections, it looks as if this house is, the top of that stairway going across is at about elevation 30. And it's on top of a fully revetted seawall. So you have to look at what the interest that you're protecting here. And so the interest that you're protecting, if it's, for example, coastal erosion or even habitat, this house is not only moving further back from the existing house and pulling out a retaining wall in that area, but the area that you really want to protect is the north side of this property, because that's where the land slopes down into that floodplain and into that coastal dune. And this project is actually removing all the structures in that area. So I think the commission's concern here it shouldn't be the distance of this house from the top of the coastal bank that's fully revetted and you're up 30 feet above the area. I think the commission's concern should be, how are you protecting that floodplain, and how are you protecting the interaction of the structures within the floodplain? And by pulling the existing garage out, pulling the bocce cord out, pulling the retaining wall out, bringing all that back into a responsibly vegetated area with an extensive planting plan, we're doing exactly what you want us to do. Moving this house back another 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet for the sake of checking that box is not going to change this house's relationship to the wetland or the interests that are protected here. So again, we've done what you've asked. We can't move it back any further. But even if we did, even if we could, for example, move it 5 feet back or 6 feet back or 8 feet back, it's not going to change what you're trying to do here, which is to remove those structures from the north side of the property, get everything out of the flood zone, remove and regrade and replant all those areas where that coastal dune comes around and where that floodplain exists. So we simply can't go back any further, and we're not going to go back any further. We are doing what you want us to do. I believe we are.
Through the chair, if we could just hear the other comments from the other commissioners.
Well, I just want to reply to Mr. Zender here for a minute. And we do appreciate that you are removing structures from the floodplain, reducing the driveway there. But once we've done that, we have to look at the house in the location where it's going and the size and the impact there. So it's not just that you're moving stuff out of the flood area and away from the dune. You're building a new, bigger structure in a different area of the property. And we have to look at that and its impacts, not just at what you're removing, but what you're building. So it's good that you're removing stuff from the flood area, but we do need to look at the structure and the size and impact of what you are proposing as well.
Yeah, one item that Madam Chair, that I did not point out is we started with an increase. The first plan that we had, we started with an increase of 59 square feet within the 0 to 50 foot buffer. We're up to almost a 600-foot reduction from the 0 to 50 foot buffer. So I would disagree and say that we are pushing things back.
Okay. Right. And I am opening it up to the rest of the commission. I had finished my comments. So for now, as I had stated. So I would ask if anybody from the commission has any questions, if you could raise your hand. It's a little hard to see. Janet?
I am also concerned about Karen's concerns. In addition, I had asked if you could submit a plan that would show the dimensions of the current buildings, overlain with the dimensions of the proposed buildings. I don't see that. Another question I have or concern is you're putting in a foundation with the house and the pool goes into the ground also. That would cause a blockage with subsurface drainage. And we don't talk about that very often, but that's definitely a consideration with the house and the proposed pool. Another comment I want to make is I have a friend who says a few decades ago, they used to be able to view the top of the house. They could not view the top of the house from the beach. Now they can, which is an indication to me of erosion of the coastal bank and also possibly a rise in sea level. So those are 3 comments that I have in addition to agreeing with what Karen stated. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just, Greg?
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. One of the concerns we had at the last meeting had to do with the pervious nature of the area in front of the house, because before that there was flagstones and all sorts of hardscape. And I was just wondering if you just walk me through just a little bit on the front there, what you've done. It looks like to me, you've taken out a lot of that material. You're putting in the tolerant fescue grass. That's going to be grass area.
Correct. Drought tolerant fescue, the Cape Cod seed mix.
And I had a concern about the connection between the stairs and the house. And my understanding now is that you're going to backfill that whole area with, I don't know, a foot or two of sand? Is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna backfill that whole front, all the way around the front area of the plan?
That's correct, to return it to its pre-construction state.
So would that be at this, that will be at the same height as the bank is now? I'm just trying to understand.
That is correct.
Okay. And then if you go to the north of the lawn vegetation that you're putting in, under the proposed upper wood deck, is there going to be a permeable material under there to make sure that any drainage will go through that deck?
Yes, there will be crushed stone underneath both of those decks.
Okay, so both of those now. So that whole area then would be as permeable as you can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Actually, it's going to be more permeable than the lawn area because the infiltration rate of a lawn is less than having direct contact with the substrate below, the sand that's below.
Okay.
So
that's good. And another question I had, this is just a question about the bank versus the dune. For some reason, I thought that the dune part was in the north part of the bank area. If you go to the north where the bank and the campground beach intersect, is that corner not dune? Or because, yeah, up there, right there. Yeah, in that area there.
Yeah.
It's not dune, it's bank.
It's bank all the way to the corner here where essentially where the revetment stops.
Yeah.
And the parent material comes up and around that corner.
So there is a dune right there, and then the dune is behind it?
Yes, at some point that it probably was glacial formation, and then having that open area of the parking lot and the shifting sands has probably put a significant layer on top of the area that is now dune.
Okay. All right. Well,
it's a very unique situation where you have a dune behind a coastal bank.
Yeah, I didn't understand it. I thought, for some reason, I thought at the northern area there was dune material there, but I guess not. And that's all the questions I have right now. Thank you.
Okay. Joanne?
No questions. I do want to say I appreciate your considering my request to remove some of the gravel driveway and help further stabilize that area. I appreciate that a lot of the square footage is coming out of the 50-foot buffer. I think Greg asked a number of questions that I had remaining, so I'm currently in a pretty good place. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask our new commissioners if they have any questions. Mike, anything from you?
No questions.
Okay. Cinnamon?
Questions?
Okay. Alex?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay. So where are we on this?
Through the chair, does Greg have a question or is his hand just?
Oh, I'm done. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to ask what the fill material is in the area you propose to fill?
It would just be common fill. Most likely it would come out from the excavation of the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be parent material.
And just to go back to the vegetation between the house and the coastal bank.
Yeah.
I would like to see a wider area that is more shrubbery between the house and the coastal bank, and a no disturb zone in the area between the house and the coastal bank and the house and the dune area.
I just want to clarify. So we're saying a larger buffer seaward of this red line here,
Yeah, basically.
and then reducing, having a greater buffer on this side.
Yes.
question for the chair?
Yes.
Oh, why? And that's certainly, I think that's certainly a reasonable request, but we've been coming back, a number of times with this application, and the board's done a great job in giving us feedback. Would that, if that were to happen, if we were to increase the vegetation on that side, would that give the chair the ability to support the project?
It would get me a lot closer.
Well, I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to get you there, Madam Chair.
I'm trying. I
know.
understand, and I'm being honest here. That this project does bother me, as you understand from
Understood.
my comments and questions. So it does feel like a very big area of impervious hardscape surface in what feels like a pretty small area of space when you're standing up there where the house is going in. And there are a number of resources here. So it bothers me, and having something very close to the coastal bank bothers me in a lot of ways. Not a box to be ticked, but we've seen a lot of significant erosion around town with a lot of houses that are within that range of distance from the coastal bank get into serious trouble. So having looked at the Massachusetts coastal flood risk modeling and other things, I get very concerned when a house is that close to a coastal bank, given the modeling on future conditions.
Well, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to just take this opportunity to be a little more of an advocate than maybe I have been previously. We've come through this process with the commission, and it's been, I believe, it's really felt like a cooperative project. We've listened to you, we've addressed questions the commission's had, we've reduced the scope, we've moved it, we've changed decks and patios, and done a lot of things. The fact that this is concentrated in this small area is intentional. And we're looking at two sides of the same coin. One, it looks like a significant development of one small part of the lot. But the other side of this coin is that what we're doing is we're removing development and protecting what we believe is the more sensitive and more important part of this lot, which is the coastal dune and the flood zone. And I listened to this board wrestle with the question of how do you deal with structures in floodplains? Meaning, how do you construct them? Can you construct them? Should you construct them? And how do you deal with the consequences of structures in flood zones? How do you build it? So this project, when you look at it on a bird's eye view, looks concentrated in that southerly corner, but that's intentional because we're protecting the entire north side of this lot. So we're at a place now in this hearing that I feel where we're fishing or we're cutting bait, which is, look, we've addressed the concerns as much as we think we can, but we can't just keep coming back every time to sort of split the distance to infinity. So if the chair feels that, look, going back and increasing the vegetation on this west side is something that will get this to an approval, we'll certainly do it. But if this is, addressing a concern and then coming back next time and saying, well, thank you for doing that, but I just can't support it, we might as well just ask for the vote, because I really feel like we've given you what we can give you, but there's some little things we can do, and if you can identify those, we're certainly willing to look at them. So.
Right, and I appreciate that, and I do appreciate all the work you did in the lower level, lower sloped, lower elevation area where you're removing structure in the floodplain. I do appreciate that, and I think that's tremendous. And I'm not disputing that is excellent planning. I got stuck on the house and the size. If I were going to approve it, I would absolutely need to have more buffer plantings in those areas. It seems like you're not going to move it back. I'd like you to move it back. It seems like a lot of the rest of the commission is pretty satisfied with this. So if I'm making a decision tonight, I suppose if you were to substantially increase the mitigation plantings, the buffer plantings between the house and the coastal bank and the dune, I would probably vote yes to
Thank
approve.
you, Madam Chair. Okay, and thank you for that. You know, this is always the hardest part of a hearing for me, is getting as much feedback as I can get. So I'll sit back and listen now.
Right. And I will say, I do not like hearings to go on and keep coming back into the same round discussion over and over again either. But there are times when you really struggle with approving a project, and this has been one of them for me.
Understood. Understood. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that was very helpful. I think if we could get the same sort of feedback from the other commissioners, that would be very helpful for us to have a positive return with what we think could get approved.
Okay. Maybe that would be easier if you drop the
Sure.
screen sharing.
Yep.
If we could just, if the commission's okay with that, I'll just run through you all for comments. Joanne?
Yes, I'm good with the project. I support your idea about increasing that vegetated area, and I would be fine with it.
Greg?
I'm also good with the project, and I think I agree. If we can get the additional vegetation to support that area, that'd be great, and I would vote for it.
Janet?
I'd still like the house moved back. I like the idea of more vegetation. That's a big help. I still have concerns about the subsurface and the subsurface drainage, especially because of especially because of the resource areas. Thank you.
Okay, and that is the voting quorum you just heard from.
Madam Chair, we're going to request a continuance to your next meeting, just so we can present you with one more revised plan.
Okay. So the next meeting is September 23rd. Is that right? Let me just double check that. Yeah, the next meeting is September 23rd.
Yeah, we would ask for that if the board is amenable.
Okay, so if somebody would like to make a motion to continue to September 23rd.
Motion to continue to September 23rd.
And a second, please.
Second?
Janet?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you all for your time, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. All right, and that finishes all of our public hearings. Next on the agenda, we don't have any minutes. Alex, any violation updates for us?
No new updates this evening. My prior updates that have been given at the last meeting stand.
Okay, and then liaison reports. I don't think anybody has had any meetings since the last time we met. I'm just going to explain what that is for our new members. So the Conservation Commission appoints some of its members to be liaisons to other committees, town committees, in particular the Strategic Planning Committee, the Open Space Committee, the Forest Committee, and the CPA Committee. So every time we have a meeting, the liaisons who are we represent the commission on those meetings, on those committees, and are full members of those committees. And every time we have a meeting, we ask our liaisons to report back on what those committees are doing and get input from us if they need it, and so on. Okay. So then we have education and training updates. There are a bunch of MACC fundamentals classes coming up. You can see those on the MACC website. I know that Cinnamon and Mike were looking at signing up for some of those.
Mhm. I absolutely will. I'm going to sit down and go over those tomorrow, looking at my schedule. They were included in the handbook that Alex gave us.
Right. So you coordinate with Amy on that. And there is a stormwater report interpretation training, lunch and learn, coming up from the MACC next on September 24th at noon. If anybody's interested, you can sign up for that on their website as well. If you don't know, if the new members don't know how to do that, just let me know and I'll talk you through it. And that's kind of that. We're going to come back to the Forest Committee appointment. And I want to ask Greg if he's had some time to think about that. Talk to Mike Harnett or other people.
Yeah,
Or
just
should we-
sign me up. I'm ready to go. Give me the name of the person. I'll call him tomorrow.
Okay, so if somebody would like to make a motion to appoint Greg as our Forest Advisory Committee representative.
I move to appoint Greg as our representative to the Forest Advisory Committee.
And a second?
I will happily second.
Okay, so this is something everybody can vote on. Joanne,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
I'd like to see somebody vote no at that point, but Cinnamon,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so I will let the Forest Committee Chair, Francis Lewis, know, and I'll let the town clerk know. You have to get sworn in for that committee as well.
Right.
But I'll have Francis get in touch with you about meeting schedules and things.
Great. Thank you.
Any other discussion from anybody? Okay. Having nothing, I want to say thank you for your work tonight, and thank you to the new people for joining us. We really appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
And I think that's it for the night. Not too bad. 7:37. So if we could have a motion to go ahead, Alex.
Did you want to mention the kiosks, Karen?
Oh, sorry. I have had no sleep in 3 days. So we did the forest. Thank you. The Forest Committee, the Open Space Committee put in a CPA request to purchase some kiosks to go up at the entrances to Wiley Park and Nickerson Park. So Nickerson Conservation Area. So they've gone in, and maybe Alex could share the photos.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to share the photos at our meeting tonight, but I could certainly email them out to the commission. The DPW did get around to installing the 2 kiosks today. They look great, and I'd encourage the commission to swing by and take a look if they're able, or perhaps we could put it on a future site list or site visit for maybe next Tuesday. We could swing by, or not next Tuesday. You know what I mean? Tuesday before our next meeting.
Yeah. So just to explain a little more about the kiosks, these are going to be used to put up information about the sites, including conservation area use regulations, to educate people on what's expected of them and what's not allowed while they're visiting, but also information about the work the Forest Committee's doing and about Wiley and Nickerson as well, and then some information from the Natural Resources Department, which would likely be changed on a seasonal basis. So we're really excited to have this because we've had some struggles with getting people to understand that this is a conservation area and that certain behavior is expected while using the site. So we're still keeping the other bulletin board area that is at the Wiley Park location that's used primarily by the Dog Owners Association okay, so that is that, and everybody did great work today, so thank you. And if we could have a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
And is there a second?
Second,
Janet?
yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Night,
you.
everyone.
All right. Thank you for your
Good
time.
night, everybody.